Hi, welcome to building a range of motion app in iOS using the QuickPose SDK. QuickPose takes a camera image and performs some AI features on top of that and renders it in real time. So today we'll be building a range of motion measurement tool, which is kind of what you see here on the right. You've got a picture of a lady and we've drawn some dots on her legs to highlight her legs, and then we've measured the angle between them. This is more of an example, but as we develop the app today, you'll be seeing this made in code and in real time. So let's crack on. The video today assumes you have downloaded the QuickPose iOS SDK from our GitHub. You use Swift Package Manager to do this. I have got the bare bones Apple app here, which comes when you create a new project in Xcode. And when I run this, I just get this hello world on the right. You can see here I've also installed our SDK via Swift Package Manager. So I'm just going to do a tidying up. Okay, so first things first is we need to stick some boilerplate in to get our application running with QuickPose. So I'm just going to import QuickPose. I'm also going to import QuickPose Swift UI. This will allow me to use some more sort of helper classes in Swift UI, which make it a lot tidier. Okay, so I'm going to start with a Z stack, which stacks views on top of each other, because what we do in QuickPose to make it more efficient is we have the camera feed running below, and then we render an overlay image on top of that. So we're not actually touching the camera feed, we're just loading overlay images which has our annotations on top. So let's bring in a camera view. So this would be our camera view if we were loading this on a device. What I want to do though is load the simulated camera view, because we'll be developing this on my Mac, and my Mac is a Silicon Mac, which allows me to run it natively. I strongly suggest developing on the new Silicon Mac, because as you'll see, it really reduces your development time. So just a bit of boilerplate here. I think front camera true is fine for now. It wants a QuickPose delegate. That's a long-winded way of saying QuickPose. So I'm just going to bring in QuickPose here. QuickPose. We need an SDK key. The SDK key is tied to your bundle ID, so make sure you register on our dev portal. It is free. Okay, so we've got our QuickPose implementation there. Cool. The simulated camera view takes a video. So I've recorded a few videos in advance. I'm going to start off with quite an interesting choice. You might be like, why am I using this video? This video is, I've called it Confused User. Now you'll sort of see why I do this. But the general gist of it is I stand back and I scratch my head for a bit and look confused. So I'm going to load that in now. I'm going to do an if let, so if I do forget my video later, it will throw a warning. Okay. Oop, not that one. For resource, cool. Confused user, an extension. Okay, so if I run that now, I should have my video playing. There we go. What to do now? Great question. Okay, so I'm just going to put the overlay part of the app in now, so we can start rendering. So it takes an overlay image as input. I'm going to call it overlay image. Oh, it needs to be Swift UI state as well, and it is an optional UI image. There we go. And because it's a binding, I need to pass the dollar. This is a way of just making it more efficient, so it doesn't trigger reloads of this view, which are very expensive. Okay, so we've got the Z stack there, and I'm just going to say on appear, let's just start the QuickPose SDK with some feature. So if in doubt, the default feature for me is, say, show points. I'm just going to ignore most of these for now. The output image is going to be helpful, and the feature array here is actually going to be really helpful. We'll call it results. I'm going to ignore landmarks. If you're interested, status gives you frames per second, and landmarks gives you the raw points from the framework. Don't remember calling that finish results. Cool. Okay, so now we want to set the overlay image to the output image. So this is just our basic boilerplate, nothing too exciting yet. What I'm expecting is for my face to have a load of dots on it. Great. It's pretty responsive as well, which is nice to see. Okay, the focus of this is actually to make it like a production-ready application. So details like this white gap here, I will be addressing. So this is because the safe area is being respected. So I'm just going to choose it to ignore all edges. And what I'd actually suggest is don't even have this in this view. Call it up here, just so all your views have it by default and you don't even need to think about it. There we go. This is particularly important for full screen applications like a camera. Okay, so we've got a confused user. That's sort of to be expected because there's no UI prompts at all. So I think what I'll do first is just put in a prompt to say something like raise your leg or welcome to the application, because the goal here is to make a range of motion measurement app, but we also need a lot of UI prompting and a lot of feedback. Otherwise the user won't really know what to do. Okay, so we've got on appear. What I'm going to add is an overlay, and we use this technique in our earlier videos. So we say, I'm just going to put it along the bottom, alignment, bottom, and then we want to say something like welcome to the app. I'm just going to get rid of show points for now. I feel it's done its job of demonstrating the SDK is running. Now the eager-eyed of you will notice it's along the bottom there, but I wouldn't expect your average user to notice that. So we're going to have to make the welcome to the application a bit more obvious. I love a large font size for these sorts of things, and I'm going to use the system size 32. I've got some sort of styling in mind for this, so I'm just going to plow ahead with that. We need a sort of a background rectangle for this to really pop. I'm going to use a rounded rectangle, just gives us a few options later on. Got a corner size of 4, great. And I'm going to make it a white box behind the black text. Ooh, what have I done? Corner size. Oh yes, corner radius. Welcome to the app. Okay, so we need some padding around the side. I'm wary of this becoming a sort of a very detailed Swift UI tutorial, but we need to find a bit of a balance between demonstrating the SDK features and exploring Swift UI. So okay, I'm going to bring it up from the bottom. So padding bottom 100. So welcome to the app, great. We might want to make that a bit more meaningful. So welcome to the leg measuring app. Now the user will probably still be a bit confused after the leg measuring app prompt. And what I'm doing here is creating kind of agile kind of UX experience based around these sorts of videos, because if in doubt, the user's probably confused. So if we've got very clear prompts, we're solving a lot of those problems. Okay, so we've got this step here, welcome to the leg measuring app. So what's the next step? We kind of want a sort of an idea of a state to transition from where we are to where we're going. And I'm a big fan of having a view state defined for the view, and I'd like that to make that an enum. So I'm going to go in here with a view state. I'm going to make it equatable so we can do some interesting stuff with it. So my first case would be not initialized. I can use an optional version of this, but it makes the view a bit more cluttered. So for now, I'm just going to have a not initialized state. Cool, we've got a view state, and it is immediately instantiated as not initialized. And then the next state will be intro to app. So we've got not initialized, we've got intro to app. So when the app appears for the first time, we want the view state to go to welcome to the app. So intro to app. Let's try that. Cool. Well, it looks very similar to how it did before. What we probably want is the text here to be dependent on the state. So I'm going to create a computed value here, and it's going to be an optional value, and it basically says some of these states has a prompt. I'm going to use a good old switch. So not initialized returns nothing because we don't really want a prompt on when it's not initialized. But I do want intro to app. And some of you might be like, oh, why use a switch? Right, because it gives you here a prompt to say, oh, you've missed a state. And for things like this in UI, it's good to have a very explicit state because people can join the project and so on and not realize what your initial intent was. So we've got welcome to the leg measurement app. Because this is optional, we can't put it directly into here, but we can do something like this. So we're saying if there is a prompt, show it. But we only have a prompt for the intro to app step. Cool. Okay, welcome to the leg measuring app. I'm going to create a new step now called intro to measurement. So the long term is I actually want to show you two measurements in this app because this is like it will be a ready to go app. So the first measurement is called a kind of leg lateral flexion, but we're just going to call it for now. We're going to call it just leg measurement. So raise your leg. Okay, so if I run that, what will happen though is it will go to the intro to app state and it won't go on to the raise your leg state. That's because we've got no real transition from the first state to the second state. What I'm going to do is sort of put that transition in now. There's two ways which come to mind. One is using a sort of delay function here to say, okay, we'll show that for 2 seconds and then we'll go into the intro to measurement. But I want to do a slightly more robust method, which you'll see we can use over and over again. So we're going to use an onChange function here, where it takes the view state and then performs a function with the new view state. So that means whenever we change this state, we'll be able to get a new value. And we'll just bring it out as new view state down here. Okay, so that means whenever the view state is set to intro in app, we can then set a delay. So I'm just going to copy this line in because it is very confusing. It's just a bit of boilerplate to say delay, and notably it runs on the main thread, so you can run UI functions in it. So after 2 seconds, I want it to change to intro to measurement. raise your leg. Great. Now, what I've experienced from making a few of these AR fitness apps is verbal instructions are always terrible. So I strongly recommend making it visual as soon as you can. I appreciate that you might not have immediate access to a designer or like a premium finished photograph, but just sticking a photo of yourself in for now is more than sufficient. So I've got a picture of me doing the lateral flexion, and I've taken this from a video which I'll show you in a few minutes. So it's probably just easier for you to shoot a video doing a few poses and then sort of pick the still out. So this isn't going to be a text prompt now, it's going to be an image prompt. There's still going to be a text string because we need the file name. So most of these are going to be null, but so I'll probably do this a bit differently. So the intro to measurement now will have the case we want, and all the others will be nil. So I don't want that to be raise your leg. I want that to be the name of my file, which is demo lateral. So it's going to be exactly the same as this. I'm going to bring it up to the top right though. And then if there is a prompt image, so there's a bit more boilerplate we need to do on this. So it needs to be resizable. Just making sure I'm getting it right. The next step is we need the aspect ratio to be maintained when we resize it. And then we want this image to be roughly a third of the width, I'd say, kind of like peaking up here. I'm going to keep the same amount of padding. It's asking for the reader here, and that's a geometry reader. This is like a standard way of measuring the size in SwiftUI. I mean, I would call it messy, but sure. Okay, let's have a look at this. Welcome to the leg measuring app. Raise your leg. Right, okay. I got the wrong side. Oh, top leading out, top trailing is what I wanted. Okay, there we go. Scratching my head, and I've my text prompt is still a bit unhelpful, so I'm going to call it match the pose. Or maybe more politely, please match the pose. Welcome to the leg measuring app. Please match the pose. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We're kind of coming to the limits of what we can do with our confused user video. There's two more things I want to do first, though, because when you start adding a more complex video, then your sort of demands of the app radically improves. At the moment, the app is smarter than the video. What we can see here is the video is looping, but it's getting stuck in the end state. But for development purposes, it's quite helpful to reset the state. So there's an extra little feature here. It's a callback called onVideoLoop on the simulated camera view. This is a closure, so it will sort of the tidier way of doing it is just to pass it on the end here. So this is on loop, and what we want to do is reset the state to not initialized, but we want to recreate the on appear step. So we're going to change the view to intro to app. Note we're also blanking the features here on the QuickPose app. On the QuickPose SDK, so I'm going to blank the features as well. We'll come back to blanking the features and why that's important. Basically, if you're showing a hand measuring tool and you've reset the app, you'll still have the hand measuring tool there. Okay, so I'm going to rerun that, and I'm expecting on loop now for it to restart. So I'm coming in. Welcome to the Les Measuring App. Perfect. Cool. Okay. So I think what would be good is if we actually take a measurement as well before going to the next level. So the next step is measuring. And then I'm just going to give a little text prompt to say measuring. It's useful for people to have quite an explicit like stay still or like we're measuring now rather than just being caught without them realizing. Okay. So what does measuring mean? We typically expect some sort of a feature to be applied and some sort of overlay to be shown on the screen. So we need to change what happens when we change the view state. So when we change the view state to measuring, we want the features to be updated. Update the features to be a kind of leg measuring feature. I'm going to put this up here, and that will be clear why later. So I'm going to call it a range of motion. Oh, it needs to know what type it is. QuickPose feature, range of motion, and I'm going to measure my knee. And I'm going to measure my my right side, and I'm going to do a true clockwise direction. So now, whenever my view state is set to measuring, the QuickPose SDK is updated with a knee range of motion feature. And if you're wondering what these are, we kind of show them all on GitHub, so you can see the whole range of features, and that will grow as more and more releases come out. Okay, what have we got going on here? Please match the pose. I was expecting a range of motion to be shown there, to be honest. Oh, nowhere is it going on to show range of motion. Got you. So maybe after 2 seconds of the view state in intro, then we change it to measure. Welcome to the leg measuring app. Please match the pose, and after 2 seconds measuring, there we go. I think it might be quite cool to show the measuring feature the step before, so we kind of want to show that when it says intro to measurement, and it will keep that those same features as it goes into measuring. Please match the pose, measuring. Okay, I might actually change my point of view on that. I felt quite busy going into that. So how can we do this? What I think would be good is it's only after a delay did that show. So maybe we do this. So after 1 second, we then show the measuring tool. There's a key principle here to introduce one thing at once to the user, progressive disclosure. So please match the pose, and then we get our measuring tool, and then we get the prompt saying measuring. It's still quite fast, but considering the video is pretty limited in what we're able to do with it, I think this is probably good enough for now. I did want to keep the image during the measuring stage. So up here now in the view state, we can change that. So case measuring. Just as sort of a bit of a recap on what we're doing here, we've got our kind of view components down here. We've got our overlays, and then we've got some logic here changing the QuickPose features and updating the state. But the state and the logic behind it is all up here in our enum. And this is called a state machine, where you just progress through different states, and but the logic is kept very still and like well managed. If we had all these different features, like an image showing sometimes and a measuring bar showing sometimes, it would be really confusing without some form of like structure like this. The next step, like for like productionizing this will probably be to pull this logic out to a model, but Swift UI kind of has certain restrictions on models, and I kind of want to keep this all in one view for now. Okay, so there is something I wanted to put in to tidy up this. Now it's more of a sort of advanced feature here, so if it doesn't make much sense, don't worry. It's just think of it as a way of tidying up this. So what we have here is after a second I want to change the view state, and then after another second I want to change the features. What I would do is have another state here. Now this says update and add features after delay. So it basically changes the state, but after a couple of seconds it changes the features. This allows you to say something like intro to app, and then afterwards apply the measuring angle, so the user gets progressive disclosure of what's happening. So it's not just all at once, it's like a trickle of new things. Now we're getting a few errors on here. That's because the view state is referring to itself, so we need to stick indirect on here. Switch must be exhausted. Fine, it is. Notice we don't have our new feature. Now you can actually skip everything in the brackets if that doesn't matter for your prompt. So we're going to return no image for that. Sorry, no prompt for that and no image. Great. Further down here though, this is where it starts to save a bit of time. I'm just going to just do something quite sort of stupid for now and assume something like this will actually work. Dot update and add features after delay. So I want to change the state to intro to measurement, and after 2 seconds I want to show the features of the knee, and then presumably after that I want to change it to measuring. This requires a bit more boilerplate as well, so that any time you change the view state to this, you need to be able to explicitly handle it. So on the change of view state, where the view state equals, I'll just use the latest version of this. I don't actually think it matters though. Where the new view state equals update and add features after delay, take the next state and apply that immediately. Blank any previous features, and then after the delay add the new features. What's good is we'll be able to use this as like a building block for much more complicated UI, which we're getting to, don't you worry. Welcome to the leg measuring app. Please match the pose. Cool. Okay. Right, I'm happy with that. So now we've got the second step of this, which is to make this a lot more production ready. That's going to involve bringing in a more final video. So I've copied in this video. I'll just kill this dancing dude for now. Okay. So let's have a look. This is what I need for the user's experience to be. So I step back and then I prompt the user with some message, and then I ask for a thumbs up. So the thumbs up allows the user to say, yeah, I'm ready to continue, so that you're not talking over them or sort of going too fast for them. The next step will be a message saying, oh, lift your leg in this certain way. And we're doing that leg. This is the lateral flexion I was talking about. And then I'm probably going to show some result here, confirm the result, and then move on to the second measurement. And then that's it. That's the end of the video. So this is a bit of a step up from the previous experience, where we just had some confused guy staring. Don't get me wrong, that might be a significant part of your user base. Let's just load the video in. Cool. Well, we're not doing many thumbs up. So let's do a detector for the thumbs up. This is one of our features, so don't worry too much if you're like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Right. Okay. So my intro to app now, I want that to have a slightly more detailed prompt. So it's now going to say, this app measures your knees movements. When you're ready, give a thumbs up. So let's just run with that. And then between intro to app and intro to measurement, I want it to wait. So what I recommend is loading a feature in called thumbs up, and then that feature gets set on the intro to app step. So wherever I'm setting intro to app, I want the feature to be thumbs up. QuickPose, update features with thumbs up. Okay, cool. Well, let's see what happens there. Cool. This app measures your knee. Right. Please match the pose. Cool. Well, it's very quickly getting overwritten, so I'm just going to block out that code for now. In fact, I didn't even see it working. Oh, there we go. So my thumb is highlighted here. That's the thumbs up detector in action. Because this is a kind of production ready application, I'm just going to tidy up the layout there. So we want the text alignment to be centered. Okay, let's give that a go. And then we want the thumbs up to determine whether it goes from intro to app onwards. So now it's just stuck in intro to app. Now we're going to change that logic. So if the view state is equal to intro to app, and the features I get, measurement result equals, now we're pulling this out of the results dictionary, and we use the thumbs up feature as our key. We've got measurement result thumbs up. We're not using that yet, of course. I'm just going to print the measurement result now so you can see it. I'll just print the whole thing. So this is our thumbs up function, and it gives you a probability of the state. So you saw little flashes there. At the moment it's 0, but when there is a thumbs up, you would have seen it flashed up to, oh, perfect. It will flash up to a higher value. So we've got some really high probabilities here, 0.8, 0.9. You'll note there that it's a bit jittery for now. We're kind of working on that, but we have some values here which we can work off. So I'm going to say measurement result value needs to be bigger than, say, 0.7. And if it is, then I'm comfortable that that's a thumbs up. I could allow 0.4, but that might be something like that. I kind of want a real clear thumbs up. This is probability, not angle. Bear in mind, probability works a bit differently because that's a AI feature. Okay, so when I have a measurement value of higher than 0.7, this is where I can bring in my view state change. So let's bring that in. So I changed the view state, and I want it to change it to intro to measurement. And then I want to show my knee after that. Let's see how that works. Now you'll note the logic is changing from down here, where we're on the view state is changed, and we're pulling it up here to after a feature has been recognized. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Let's have a look at this from scratch. Okay, so we stand back. Thumbs up detectors there. Thumbs up, please match the pose. Great. And we had a little delay before the measurement tool came up. It felt generally quite quick and janky though. There's something about if something's too quick, then the user it kind of feels a bit strange to the user. So I'm going to add a new meta state in. So we had before the kind of update and add features after delay. I'm going to add a loading state. So anytime we get a kind of thumbs up, we kind of wait for a bit and give the user some feedback. So this is a quite a specific case. So it's before please match pose. I'm going to say loading after thumbs up. And I've tried a few messages here, like great and done and things like that, but it's useful to acknowledge the user's thumbs up and then to say what's happening now. So it's going to continue. So now we're going to change this line to update the view state after the thumbs up. We've talked about the user needing some validation. So after we're going to show that validation, and then after 2 seconds, we're going to move on to a new view state, which is going to be the introduction to measurement. So we're going to give the app intro. We're then going to wait for the thumbs up. Once they've given us their thumbs up, then we jump into the measuring. So every time we change the state to loading after thumbs up, we want the thumbs up to case loading. We want the thumbs up to display a message, which it will do at the top, and then we want it to progress to the next stage. So this is just going to bring in a delay, and it's going to bring in a next state. Okay, I'm going to use this logic here to show the delay, and then view state becomes next state. Cool, okay, let's have a look. So we're getting thumbs up from the detector from the start. Awesome, continuing. Please match the pose. Now I think that's a pretty good user flow. I kind of note though that we've lost the change in features. So it's just showing me the thumbs up all the time. Let's tweak that. We kind of don't really want the thumbs up to be showing from the beginning. We only want the thumbs up to be showing after a certain delay. So how I'm going to do that, this is no longer sufficient because we're getting the thumbs up displayed all the time. So I'm going to remove that, and then I'm going to change the onAppear call so that when it appears, we wait 2 seconds, which I think is a nice enough time for the user to sort of step back. We're going to change the state to intro to app. We're going to wait 2 seconds, and then we're going to allow the feature thumbs up to be shown. Now don't forget, whenever you change it on the onAppear, you have to correspondingly update the looper. So this is on, don't forget, on every time the video loops. So the sort of meta features just give us building blocks. So we get our intro, we get our thumbs up. So the thumbs up is still present for too long, which means that after we get our thumbs up here, we're not transitioning to our correct features. So I think now the best time of doing it is no longer inside here after the thumbs up. We want it down here as part of our change of view state. So after intro to measurement, so if new view state equals intro to measurement, then we want to update the pose, update features with our knee detector. Quite right. All right, there we go. You see how the thumbs up disappeared quite quickly. I'm very happy with that. Okay, well, we can start moving on to sort of more advanced features now. Well, I note that we're not actually capturing the measuring result. So it says, please match the pose, but it doesn't actually give the user the next prompt. So we're not getting measuring. So how about after the view state is changed to intro to measurement, we wait a kind of generic 2 seconds and then change the prompt to measuring. And we could do this with a thumbs up again, but we kind of want to use those quite sparingly. Measuring, very good. Okay, so it was quite slow in capturing the result. What we want is the leg to come up and then the result to be displayed as like a fixed result. So let's add a new state and let's call it captured result. I'm not going to put a value on a string value on that. Yeah. So capture result, we want it to kind of store the value somewhere, really. So when our QuickPose returns with our values, we want in here to say when my state is capture result, and then I kind of want there to be a check as well for the actual feature. So is there a result returned, which is for the knee? Then I want to store that result. So for now, I'll just print the measurement result and see what we get. This is like the first step towards like moving the UI on, but it's always good to see the results coming out first before worrying too much about the UI. Okay, so we're not transitioning into measuring. We're not transitioning to capture result yet. I don't actually see where we're doing that. So we would probably do it here. We'd allow the measuring prompt to happen. In slightly different interfaces, we could allow this to be determined by the user. So here we're sort of building up our delays again, but that's still not really in tune with the user's experience. So they could appreciate, say, the maximum result. So your leg lifts, and then your result is measured, and the highest one, say, over a couple of seconds is captured. Or if you hold it for a few seconds, then that is stored. For now, let's just see how this works. Cool, okay, well, we're getting a big load of values there. And now let's have a state called show result. So it's just going to stay in this forever. I might actually pause him. So we're going to show the result. Tweak prompt to have show result displaying a string. Let's just see how that would work. For now, we'll store the result inside here. So this would be a result, and it would be a feature result from QuickPose. Just return results and then string value. Okay. And then after we've caught a valid value here, I'm going to just save that result. So view state becomes show result with our measurement result in. Okay. So the eager-eyed among you will probably notice I'm not actually measuring the right range of motion. So this is more correct for this measurement here, which we'll get to after. So I'm going to show you how to put a custom measurement in. So we provide some basic out-of-the-box range of motions, but you can always provide a kind of lower level range of motion if you want, because these actually just reduce to lower level ones anyway. So we want a measure angle of the body, and it's kind of raising my knee up on the inside. So I'm going to choose the kind of right knee for now as the origin. This uses an origin and 2 points. The second point is actually nil because it allows me to sort of make a measurement without having to have a point above and below it. Okay, and true. Right, so let's see how that looks. Right, I have put the wrong direction in because you can see here I wanted it when it raised up to the left. So here we can see a custom measurement angle with the origin of my knee and my right ankle being the correct pivot and it being a counterclockwise direction, kind of anti-clockwise. And the measurement there was 57, looks valid. The video is going on to do the other measurements, so I'm just going to ignore what it's showing for now. Okay, so we've got our result there. So I'm pretty happy with that. The other steps we can do here is sort of go on to change the value we're measuring. So at the moment we're measuring one value. I'm saying it's 57. And then I'm going on to measure my other value, which is my range of motion here. So in a way, we kind of want both features. So I'm going to call this first one knee lateral, and I'm going to call my second one knee flexion. So this was the same value we had before. It's a range of motion of the knee. The side is my right, and this one is clockwise. So what we'll have to do is to repeat a bunch of these steps for the lateral measurement and a bunch of steps for the flexion measurement. How I propose doing that is to pass a kind of state down them which tells you if it's the lateral or the flexion. Every step along the way keeps track of whether or not it's a flexion state or a lateral state. That means we're going to have to tweak our show result as well. So I'm just going to do a little hack for this for now. Update here. The states here don't actually require knowing whether or not it's the flexion or not, so we can keep those without parameters. But these, it would be helpful. So if it's flexion, we want to return a flexion image, which I'll have to put in, and if not, a lateral image. So here's a image I prepared earlier. Like I was saying before, these aren't production ready, but they're good for building an interface and getting feedback from your team. Okay. I seem to. Oh no, they're let values. Right, let's see what this does. I cannot find knee in scope. Oh yes, because now there's two different types of knee results. First one is knee lateral, and the other one is knee flexion. So I'm going to put our our check here if it's knee flexion or knee lateral. If it is flexion, I'm going to check flexion value, and we have to get the flexion value from this. So this is a feature in Swift enums which allows you to cast the value like this. There's a case let capture result flexion. I'll probably want let flexion from the view state. So let's try that. Cool, okay. So it's taking the flexion value from the state and then saying which feature do I want the result from. This show result shouldn't technically work, so I'm going to pass in the flexion value here. Similarly down here, this needs updating. The intro to measurement needs to know if it's flexion or not. It's sort of just a big conditional change to any time a feature goes in, any time a feature goes out. Oh yes, so this value here, this enum check here, requires the case let, so we can pull out the value. And this knee flexion, if it is true. Cool. All of these now just require flexion piping in and passing down the line. Intro to measurement, flexion. Well, when we know when it's the intro to the app, we need to choose a flexion or a lateral measurement to start with. So I'm going to start with my lateral measurement because that's what I've recorded in my video. Okay, so we're getting a warning here, which means we're not actually using the measurement result. That would make sense because we're going to have a sort of bit of an error here when it says update here. But what we're after is keeping the measurements in line. So when it gets to update here, I give a thumbs up in the video, so I'm sort of expecting to validate that result. So when I get show result, I want to do some extra logic. So I know that I want to be storing this result somewhere, and currently I'm not. So let's store some results. And I'm going to store them separately for now. You might want to be using a kind of dictionary or something more permanent. So we've got knee lateral and knee flexion. Yes, that won't allow that. Knee flexion result and knee flexion result. And then I'm just going to do an if statement here. If flexion, then the result, knee lateral result, so that works. We're storing the result though, we're not displaying it. In order to display it, I'm going to have to change this from a computed property to a function so that we can actually pass in the result. Most of these values won't need this, but the optional string return type isn't changed. We want to pass in two separate results, knee lateral and knee flexion. And then in show result, we'll have a split. I'm not entirely sure what that. Oh, a function has that response type. So inside here, I'm just going to do a if flexion split. And if you were to add more and more values to here, you can do an enum or a sort of something a bit more dynamic using a dictionary, say. I'm just going to paste in a kind of pre-prepared response because it is quite wordy. Note here I'm using the results provided from the parameters. I'm doing a sort of forced reference here. This is probably a bit naughty, but it keeps the rest of the interface quite clean. And we're gonna only reference the flexion down here. Okay. Oh, we're getting an error. Oh yes, so we need to be passing the two prompts. So we've got knee lateral and knee flexion. So this is all starting to come together. I still don't see where we're launching to the second stage yet. So after this, we get that results screen. Great. But there isn't that logic, the thumbs up to continue, thumbs down to repeat. We've not done. We're very close to finishing, however, so let's just put that feature in, and then we might be able to release this. Almost. I mean, jokes aside, but it's almost there. So I want to do a different type of detector now. This would allow me here, instead of going straight to on capture result, show result, I want to specify a new state which shows the result, but after a delay of 2 seconds, I want it to show the thumbs up or down feature. So previously we used the thumbs up. That's basically just says, is there a thumbs up or not with this probability? The thumbs up or down is a bit more complicated. It allows you to say a sort of down state as well. Okay, so whenever we set a new feature, then QuickPose in its response needs to be able to process that. And because we're using a meta feature here, we don't actually have to update anything down here at all. Okay, so in here we want to say if the response is, I'm not actually going to copy that. No, I need a bit of both. So I know it's show results, the state, but I know I need the flexion value. And then if the measurement result is the thumbs up or down indicator, you can specify a side, but this logic for auto is quite helpful. So it allows if there's a raised hand, say a 1 visible, it will just default to that. Okay, so if we're getting a result and it's thumbs up or down, what logic do we want to happen? Well, firstly, we need some probabilities for the measurement result. So if the measurement result value is bigger than 0.7, so it's pretty confident in its decision. This has actually 2 states. So the string value can be thumbs up or thumbs down. So let's actually have a quick look at that before we fly into anything. Thumbs up, perfect. You might want to record a video where there's a thumbs down as well. I'm sort of leaving that to your own discretion. So string value equals, I'm just going to bring that out of the text, thumbs up. So if it's thumbs up, then we're going to do the first step, but if it's thumbs down, then we're going to do something else. If it's the other state, then we're going to do nothing. I'm just going to pause that for now. Okay. So when we've got a thumbs up and we're seeing the results stage, we want to go on to introducing the next measurement. So, but because this is after a thumbs up, we're going to give the feedback. So the delay is 2 seconds, absolutely fine default. And depending on if it's the flexion result, then if it is flexion, we want it to jump to a completed state. We don't have that yet. And if it isn't the flexion result is the second one, don't forget, we want to go to the flexion result. Okay, so we need a final state here. Completed is when you've done both states. So we're going to add a value here, and this is going to be quite a big message. I'll just copy it from my notes. Okay, so measuring complete, new line, left leg result, and then left leg result for the other measurement. We want that to be inside the switch. Okay, right, let's see if that runs. Oh, done something wrong. Ah, yes. Cool. Ah, there we go. It's gone on to the second pose. Happy with that. And now we're going to wait for the thumbs up. Awesome, continuing. Ah, perfect. Measuring complete. Right, well, we got there. This is sort of close to what I'd consider a kind of production-ready app. There's a few obvious things like the polish of the images. You need to capture the user's permission when you use the camera. I've kind of left that out for the demo videos just because it very much depends on how you want to be requesting camera permission. I'd suggest as part of a clear flow explaining the benefits of giving camera permission, because you'll be surprised some people just out of habit say no. The other features I would add to this, we need to provide the unhappy route here if they choose to ignore or give the thumbs down to any of these result states. And what I would say there is you're going back to the introduction of the same measurement. So if it was flexion before, it's going to be flexion again, rather than progressing to the next state. The other feature I would suggest is when you're capturing the results, it's helpful to give a kind of more meaning to the result you capture. Here we're just capturing an arbitrary one, and that's quite confusing for a user. So, for example, when my leg is raised up here, why not capture the highest number rather than just whatever rate value it is at here? We provide some features to help with that. So the change detector is part of the core for now. So I'm going to say here that if a double is unchanged for a time interval of about a second, with a leniency of 20%. Now, leniency, say for example with an angle, the smaller the leniency, the more strict it is. So I'm just going to reference my old code. Down here in the capture results section, we want this to be a bit more restrictive now, and we only want it to change when the unchanged detector has changed with it. So let's just sort of make a little mental record of the numbers I'm getting. So it's around 58 here, 57. So with an unchanged detector, I'd expect that value to be a bit smoother. So it takes in a result, and here I'm going to pass it the measurement result. And it takes in a double, because I've specified a double version. The callback here is when the value has passed its limit. So I was sort of expecting a prompt on change. So this is when the change has happened, it has the callback here. And then this is where we want our code to live. So we want to say only when the value has unchanged for a short amount of time, or unchanged, then that's when we want to capture the result. So let's see what happens here. $52. Well, I don't quite know why it's chosen a lower number. Let's have a look. So the leniency might be too high. So the leniency says it needs to be a 20% value, and for a range of motion, 20% is actually quite high. 1% of 100 degrees is 1 degree, and we're dealing here with 50 degrees. So I'd say for each percent of leniency, you're looking at half a degree, and I've got 20% of leniency, so it's plus or minus 10 degrees here. Which probably the key thing I want to show you here is the lower the leniency, the stricter it is, and there's a chance it won't work. So you're depending on your use case and the values you're using, it's a kind of balance between the time interval and the leniency. So there wasn't a situation hit there where there was a 1 second or where the value stayed the same. This is slightly in danger of letting the development video here shape the implementation. So I'm probably going to, this will be the last version I'll talk about. That's actually quite a good value. If the 58 got to the top, quite a strict leniency. So I basically said you're allowed half a degree of difference. I'd probably recommend keeping it at 0.5. So 0.05. So you got a 5% leniency, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was our default value. The key thing here is that you get a time delay of 0.3. So even if the user takes a long time, it will still be valid. It's the minimum time here. Cool, brilliant. And 58, happy with that. So what I suggest now is to record a few unhappy paths. You don't need to test like different ranges of motion. That's what we've done for you. What I would suggest though is the user experience. So try this out on a few family and friends. Pass it to the team. We're using the front camera. Well, we're not actually specified the camera here, but the say a key productionizing step here would be to add your camera. There's a sort of choice here whether or not you use your camera's front camera, your camera's back camera. We have a different view to allow that. So it's a QuickPose switcher camera switch view here. So you can pass in a binding to swap between the two cameras. You might find that your use case requires someone to be filming someone else, so you'd use the rear camera for that. Say, for example, in sports, you wouldn't expect someone to be carrying an iPhone and filming themselves. Cool. Yeah, that's all we've got planned for today. If you've got any issues, please raise tickets on GitHub, and we'll get around to having a look at those. And please look out for other videos of a similar kind of deep dive nature, or maybe slightly more introductory videos if this was a bit over your head. Cool, thank you.